Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scarbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. So we're going to look at the year ahead, the year 2023, from the perspective of numerology and the Kabbalah. I'm going to be doing the astrology separately. Well, actually, no, I'm going to talk a little bit about astrology, but this is mainly numbers and Kabbalah. So let's get started. I don't really know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go with it because that's how I usually do it. All right. So let's share my screen here. So I'm calling 2023 the year of movement from a place of stillness. When we look at a year vibration, we look to the universal year vibration, and 2023 is a 7 universal year vibration. And hold on 1 minute here. Okay. All right. So universal year vibration 7. According to Jean from Numerology, Spiritual Light Vibrations by Jean, 7 is the vibration that represents the perfection of the God energy. This is the number of the mystic that must go within, seek silence and introspection to bring back the perfected idea. Develop your inner power, which is not always recognized. Listen to the inner voice that can give you guidance and direct you from your higher self. Now, according to my teacher's teacher, which I haven't given credit to, but I will, at least not in the video, on the video here. But this is from the book Numerology and the Divine Triangle. You can see it's a well-loved book. This is my second. That's how well-loved book this is. 7 seeks answers. It tries to establish a philosophy by which to live, to penetrate the mysteries behind its existence, which it has never questioned to this point. So what we're going to find in 2023 is a lot of folks questioning their very purpose, their very existence. Why are they on this planet at this time? What is their part in this play, as it were, that we are all sort of consciously and oftentimes unconsciously participating in? Because solitude is necessary for analysis, the 7 feels the need to spend time alone, away from the crowds, and in touch with nature. So this is a truly magical year when it comes to your connection to nature. When nothing seems to make sense, when you can't find the pattern, it's going out into nature and having nature speak to you. It looks for friendship with those of an elevated consciousness that can match its own. So in some cases, people will perhaps lose friends because you're not vibrating at the same level, or you will bring friends in that are sort of on the same page or on the same vibrational level as you are. 7 ushers into a cycle of physical completion without apparent effort. Goals that have been long sought are now magically attained. Now, of course, we know that the magic of attaining these goals are due to the fact that you have focused on those goals and you have taken steps to get there. But perhaps up to this point, you haven't quite gotten to the place where you imagined yourself to be. This year could be your year. Keywords for the 7 year: quiet, introspective, intuitive, analytical, inspirational, reclusive, philosophical, and mystical. if we look at this vibration on the tree of life, connected numerologically, and also what tarot card is associated with this year, it would be the Chariot. The Chariot. The Chariot, according to Kabbalists, the 18th path, the intelligence of the house of influence. The Hebrew letter associated with this path is Chet, Chetth, I believe. The sign is the sign of Cancer. Even the symbol of Cancer looks very sort of self-enclosed. If you were to, you could easily change this symbol into a yin and yang, right? And then the thing about yin and yang is when we see a yin and yang, we see the black and the white and a little bit of black in the white and a little bit of the white in the black. But really that symbol is spinning. And when it spins, you can't tell the difference between the black and the white. Everything is sort of a shade of gray. But there is this energy of movement. There's movement even within the glyph of Cancer. Chet, the Hebrew letter, means fence. So it's about a boundary. It's about a boundary that you travel. Now, if you look at the tree of life to the right here, we can see that this is the path, or maybe you can't see, but I'll tell you, this is the path of the Chariot. This is the path of the intelligence of the house of influence associated with the sign of Cancer. So if you have Cancer in your chart, this would be a very significant year for you. The United States is a Cancer country. Canada is a Cancer country. So Cancer countries are also highlighted in this period. And there are many other Cancer countries. Those are the two I can think of off the top of my head. If we look at where this sits on the tree of life, it sits along one side of the tree of life. This is the pillar of the future. When you're working within the pillar of the future, you really can't plan more than 3 months ahead of time. So to have an idea of where you're going to be in 6 months or 8 months or 9 months, unless of course you're having a baby, and then in 9 months you're going to have a baby, right? Or a year from now, you can't really know, because what you're doing is in the present moment that you're creating your future. And so what you do now, you will see within 3 months. What you do in a month, you will see 3 months from there. So it sort of moves in this energy of threes, quite frankly. The Sephiroth associated with this path, because this is on a path on the tree of life, in the pillar of the future, in the pillar of severity. The pillar of severity has Baina at the top. Baina is the divine feminine, the divine feminine. Baina is the dark night of the soul. Baina is associated with Saturn. Now, the interesting thing about Saturn this year is Saturn will be in Aquarius to start the year. And then on March 6th, March 6th, it moves into Pisces. What's significant about that is that Pisces is the last sign of the tropical zodiac. So when Saturn moves through Pisces, which it will move about 3 years in Pisces, it comes out of Pisces completely in 2026. In 2025, I think it goes in and out, Pisces to Aries, then back into Pisces. So there's a little bit of back and forth before it completely goes into Aries. When Saturn does go into Aries in 2026, it's going to, a few days after that, it's actually going to conjoin Neptune. And Saturn-Neptune conjunctions happen not infrequently, and it has to do with the structure of our consciousness connected to the possibilities of Pisces, which is the great cosmic sea. So it's it is in its way a new beginning for us. So while Saturn moves through Pisces this year and next year and part of the next year, we will be wrapping things up. The last time that you have to go back, say 30 years or 28 years, 29 years to see where Saturn was, if you're that old, to see what happened when Saturn was in Pisces the last time. And you can check your own astrological chart, see what house it goes through. Do you have Pisces in your chart? And that would be something that you could explore. Now, I want to just say this up front. A 7 year is a wonderful year to get a reading, especially this type of Kabbalistic life reading. I generally don't advertise in the middle of my videos like this, but this is a year of coming to understand who you are at a soul level. And this type of work helps you to connect with that. And it actually helps you to understand yourself more completely, because most of us on some level know what we're here to do, but there are so many outward things and other voices, and the voice of, you know, what you should, could, would, instead of what you'd love to do. And so this would be a wonderful year to do that. So if you're interested in something like that, there is a link below where you can contact me to have a reading. If it's your first reading, I would suggest the 1.5-hour reading. If it's an update, we could probably update within the 60-minute reading. So just a small, just a small commercial for the work I do. Now we have Saturn in Pisces, Aquarius in Pisces, and then we have Mars. Now Mars is interesting because as the year begins, 2023, Mars is retrograde in Gemini. Mars has been in Gemini since, I believe, August of 2022, and won't go out until the end of March, when it moves into Cancer. Mars is going to station in January 12th. Mars stations direct. It is out of bounds. It has been out of bounds pretty much the whole time. And when Mars is out of bounds, there isn't a lot of there's no bounds. There's no boundaries, right? Anything can happen. When a planet stations retrograde or direct, it builds up energy, okay, at that station. And then when it starts to move forward, it's like, boom, it starts, things happen. It does take a while for Mars to move forward in any kind of speed. So it sort of sits around that 9th, 10th, 11th degree of Gemini. So that's something to consider. But Mars does move through, finally go direct. It moves this year, it'll move through Gemini, it'll move through Cancer, it'll move through Leo, it'll move through, I will tell you, Mars moves through Cancer, moves through Leo, moves through Virgo. Libra, Scorpio. When it moves into Scorpio, which is in October, that's when Mars is finally in a sign that it really loves being in. So you may not feel satisfaction completely until October. And then it moves into Sag, and it ends the year in Sagittarius, 27 degrees of Sagittarius, right around the galactic center. So that's a period to the end of that sentence. Okay, so these are some things that I said I would talk about astrology, right? So these are some things that we want to take notice of. Now, the intelligence of the house of influence, the 18th path, states this is the the truth of this path. This is the realization of this path. This is the meaning. And so take these words as best you can and utilize them in your own life. It says, in the physical body, we are the act, the actor, and the means of action. The essence of this path is that the personality is the vehicle for ascent and descent, change perspectives for a new field of view, change perspectives. So your paradigm is being shifted, and that paradigm is being shifted through a introspective look and an opening up to your own inner voice, your own higher self, that part of you that is beyond this physical experience that we're having, this three-dimensional physical experience, where you are connected to your own soul, your own source, your own direction, really, in concert with all the other higher selves, and then in concert with spirit, and so it goes. The mystery is that forms acts as a limitation, but it is not. It is a protection. Form is the ring past knot, a finite field of activity in which the force of spirit resides. That's what spins the wheel. If you have had the opportunity to be with somebody when they pass away, there is the light, and then the light is extinguished. The light just moves out of the physical body. It's not extinguished. We just experience it in a different way. And that's why when you stimulate your psychic senses, you have more sense of what's going on beyond this three-dimensional plane that, you know, everybody for the most part is conscious of. New force will dissolve old forms. So we will have a letting go as well as a rebirth of sorts. This is the creative process. You are the creative force. The chariot is a vehicle for the force of spirit. A vehicle carries, conveys, or expresses. The human personality as a vehicle of expression for the soul. That is what this path is about. It is important that we get in touch with our soul at this time. All magic is the will. You are learning the deep meaning of real magic. Moving into a new path, which involves the essence of your spirit. And that's why this is an introspective year, because we need to quiet the outer so that we can hear the inner. So I have a chart here for New Year's, the moment of New Year, right? January 1st, 2023. And I wanted to sort of look at just how the year starts, the energy of this year starts. And we have over on the left, we have the tree of life with all the planetary connections. Here we have, this is Kether. Kether is associated with Neptune. Neptune is in Pisces. Kether is our connection to source. And Pisces is that numinal, I think is the word, space. It's the end of one cycle and the potential energy of the next cycle. Within the next cycle grows that which is going to manifest itself once Neptune moves into Aries. So this is and this has been here since 2011. 2011. It's there for 14 years. Neptune spends 14 years in a sign. Over here we have Hokmah. Hokmah is the place of the divine masculine. It is associated with Uranus. We have Uranus in Taurus. And as we open the year, we still have Uranus conjunct the North Node. It's been there since the summer, and it's because Uranus has been moving retrograde, and the nodes mean motion or retrograde. They've been moving together. Now, this chart is for Washington, D.C., so this applies to the United States. But if we were to look at this on just an Aries rising chart, which is a natural chart, we have the North Node and Uranus in the second house, which is the house of values, what's important to us, resources, resourcefulness, your relationship to yourself, and a survival place. And so we're being asked to move in the direction of life and move away from the direction of death, which is Scorpio. Scorpio is a sign associated with death, but also rebirth, right? So this period of time, as the nodes have been moving through these signs, and it began at the beginning of last year when I'm trying to remember the day that it happened. It was early in January when the nodes shifted. I think it might have been the 8th or the 9th, shifted with the North Node moving into Taurus. And so it's been there for about a year, right? As we do this at the beginning of 2023. And we still have another 6 months. In July 17th, I believe, the nodes will shift into Aries and, Aries and Libra. The interesting thing about that is that the rulers of the nodes, so whatever planet is associated with Taurus, which is Venus, that's the planet associated with Taurus, sort of is in charge, right? Last year, Venus was retrograde when the nodes moved into Taurus. She was retrograde in about, I think it was 12 degrees of Capricorn. Now, this year, as the year starts, Venus is still in charge of that North Node. And where do we find her? We find her in a very tight conjunction to Pluto in Capricorn at the 28th degree of Capricorn. The 28th degree of Capricorn is the degree of the Pluto of the United States. 2022 is when Pluto reached the degree that was seen in the Sibley chart. We had 3 exact conjunctions of Pluto on Pluto. One in March, I believe, one in July or August, and the last one on the 28th of December, which was just a few days ago. So it's a resetting. It's a connecting with the soul of the country. And we've certainly had, over the last number of years, an opportunity to really look at what we have, where it needs to be, where it needs to change, perhaps, but an awareness of how, in a way, precious a democracy can be. Not that we have a perfect democracy, but certainly it's better than the last 4 years when we had sort of a kleptocracy. Well, we kind of have that anyway, but that's another story for another day. We're not going to talk about that, but overt kleptocracy. If we go over here, we're in Bina as we start the year. Bina is associated with Saturn. Where do we find Saturn? We find Saturn here. Now, one of the things that's interesting about Saturn has been square the nodes for more than, I'd say, 3/4 of 2022. It just moved out of orb of a square. I give a 10-degree orb on planet square the nodes, by the way. And so we're starting to, like, that Saturn stuff is starting to ease off a bit on the nodes. The resolution node when Saturn was squaring the nodes was the South Node. So it was about going to the past and looking at the shadow, looking at perhaps the underbelly of our situation, of humanity, of those things that are still sort of in the darkness and in the density, to be released, to be illuminated, and so that it can be dispelled. And so we're seeing this rise in fascistic and sort of, strongman kind of tactics, and the sort of power over dynamic, especially seeing it in places in the United States with the overturning of Roe, or in Iran, or in Afghanistan, where we see, or in Africa, where we see, whenever you see people suffering, it's usually women and children. And the men are either at war, or they're, being killed, or whatever, who knows, looking for work, trying to feed their family. And so the onus seems to fall on the feminine, and the children, which is life. That is life. That is the side of life. And so we're being told that we have to give birth to life against our will, no matter what the situation is. And yet they're not willing to support life. Only birth, not life. And birth without life is what? Is just suffering, as far as I can tell. If we go to this Sefer here, this is Hesed. Hesed is associated with Jupiter. Jupiter is now in Aries as we start the month. Jupiter will move into Taurus later this year. I'm looking forward to that, seeing as I have my Venus in Taurus. Mars starts the year, this is Gebura, Mars starts the year in Gemini, retrograde. We have Tiphereth here, which is the sun. The sun is in Capricorn, as it always is at the beginning of the year. We have Netzach, this is Venus. This is the Sephiroth associated with Venus. Venus is in Capricorn, right? Conjunct Pluto. Venus conjunct Pluto, very powerful. This is Hod, this is the Sephiroth of Mercury. This is also in Capricorn, and we can see Mercury very close to Venus. In fact, Venus and Mercury made a conjunction right after Mercury went retrograde at the end of December. It was the second conjunction. They had made one a month before in Sagittarius. So it's the heart and mind coming together. Now the mind being retrograde, and we do start the year with not just a Mars retrograde, which is here, but also with Mercury retrograde. And I believe Mercury is in a sesquiquadrate to Mars. Sesquiquadrate to Mars. So that is a stressful aspect. So action and mind are in sort of this energy of fighting for dominance, almost fighting for dominance. Words, is it words? Is it action? It's actually a combination of both, but right now they're in this tension, and we can sort of feel that as we start the year with what's going on in the Ukraine and other situations in China and just and certain countries sort of moving into a more restrictive energy, countries like Italy, and then those moving into a more egalitarian energy, as we have in places like Brazil and hopefully in places like the United States. The moon is in Taurus as we start the year. Here's that Taurus moon, close to the node, right? In the house, in the case of the US, in the house of relationship. But the moon in Taurus is a good position for the moon. It stabilizes the moon in the most pleasant of ways, because the moon itself can be rather fluctuating. So we sort of enter this year with sort of a steely confidence that we're going to face what we need to face. We're going to face what we need to face. And then Malkuth is associated with the earth herself. And when the sun is in Capricorn, the earth is in Cancer. And so this is about loving the earth that you're on. This is about family. This is about nurturance. This is about community. Okay. That's what we start with as we move into this new year. Now, I want to point out the 26th degree of Capricorn, because that is the degree of the conjunction between Pluto and Venus. It is also the Sabian symbol for the US Pluto. It says a large aviary, the enjoyment of spiritual values by the soul, able to familiarize itself with their implications. This is about, an aviary is a large, well, let's continue because I have more on that. I won't describe it to you, I'll read it to you. Probably safer that way. So this is a picture of an aviary. I believe this might be San Diego Zoo. I think this is the aviary of the San Diego Zoo, but don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that's what this picture is. It says birds symbolize spiritual forces, and the aviary presents us with a picture of these forces or desires contained within a mind open to the light of psychic or soul realities and bringing joy and harmony to the consciousness. Sounds like a 7-year to me. The strenuous ascent represented by the preceding scene changes into a picture of familiarity with inspiring experiences. The previous scene was pilgrims climbing a mountain to a shrine. So the struggle to reach spiritual heights takes a lot of effort, certainly. And here we have the next symbol. There is, it's like we've reached the heights and now we're in the heights of it. Yet this familiarity may also suggest a lack of spontaneity and a thrill, and of the thrill of discovery. To use modern terms, the peak experiences have become those of the high plateau, at which level one may lose one's sense of direction at times. Again, it's important. We lose our sense of direction, but it's important to reorient ourselves, right, in that 7 energy. Group mastery of cosmic energies, the youthful effort to reach the summit of cultural and spiritual attainment, has settled down into the complex state of inspiration, a state at which times may bring confusion because of the multiplicity of the voices to which one has become open. One may speak here of clairaudience, listening to the inner voice, listening to the voice in your head. And sometimes it's more than one voice. And one of the things that 7 will help us do, the 7 years will help us to discern where those voices are coming from. Is it the voice of, is it a loop in your head that, says you're this, you'll never do this, you can never be an artist, you'll die, starving artist, all that stuff. Is it something like that? Is it, are you psychic? Are you mediumistic? Are there all these like other voices? You're like, why am I hearing them? Why do I suddenly? We've been expanding ourselves. Our consciousness has been expanded. And so it's confusing. It's like moving into a new city and not having a map. You got to kind of like feel your way around. That's part of what we're doing. That's part of the reason we need time alone and introspection and time in nature to figure out what the hell are we hearing? What the heaven is going on, right? So clairaudience, meaning the capacity for being responsive to the many inner voices. And it's very interesting because in a way, this being the Pluto of the United States is a bit of an aviary, right? With all these different birds from all these different countries, all singing their songs. Does anybody understand what they're saying? The United States is in quite a position, and yet we can't, until we recognize the past and heal it, and then recognize that perhaps this isn't America. We don't own America. Nobody owns. We have the rights to our own physical self, but the land is there for everybody, really. And of course, this is ownership, and this is Taurus, and this is all that stuff, and it's Capricorn. It's all this earth stuff. How do we divvy it up? How do we make it so that we can respect everybody who lives here at the same time respect the land that we live on and start to treat it in a more sacred way. And the way forward for that, of course, is through the indigenous population, which in places like Brazil are getting more representation after a number of years of horrific stuff with Bolsonaro, right? So this is the kind of energy I'm seeing with this 7-year. This is New Year's Day, United States of America, right? So we have the sun opposite the sun. That always happens because the United States was born in the summer, right? In the northern hemisphere. So now we're in the winter, and so the sun is opposite the sun. So it gives us a perspective. Oppositions give us a perspective. We also have an opposition between Neptune and Neptune. Now, we've been having this opposition for a while. The last time Neptune was opposing Neptune, we were in the Civil War. And so we can see that separation of belief here, right? The separation of belief. How, two people, two things can be two different things, right? Here is Venus and Pluto conjunct Pluto. Right? Only a few days before the first did Pluto reach Pluto for the third and last time, where it won't reach for another 240 years or whatever. Yeah, 48 years. We have Saturn here. I don't have it highlighted. Saturn on the moon. The beginning of the year, I think, is going to be a little challenging because Saturn is going to be moving over that moon in the United States chart. And then again, it's going to, and maybe Saturn going over the moon is the people getting their justice, the people getting their cosmic justice, because Saturn is an energy of karma, And then we have this here. This concerns me a bit. We have Mars retrograde in Gemini. It is pretty much standing still. It's going to change direction on the 12th, and it's going to be right on the Uranus of the United States. The United States is the only country that ever dropped an atomic bomb, and they did it twice. Gemini. And when that happens, I'm trying to remember. I don't know if Saturn was on Uranus at that time. I'd have to look back. I know that there was something very significant with Uranus at the time that we dropped the bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Luckily, except for a couple of accidents, we have not seen that, and hopefully we will never see it again. I don't think the United States is going to drop a bomb on anybody, certainly not a nuclear bomb. But one of the things that I want to just talk a little bit about is, if we haven't come to realize that nuclear weapons are completely useless, and that we're spending all of our resources to build these things we'll never use, and not taking care of the people that live in the country, it seems it seems like we really do need a paradigm shift, don't we? Don't we really? All right, let's see what else we have here. All right, I think I'm going to stop here, because the next slides are about each month, and I'll do that when I do the month ahead. So we're going to stop here. So I just want to review a little bit, if I could. We're in a 7-year. It's a year of introspection. It's a year of looking within. We're on the path where the soul takes on the armor of the personality, so that we can function as a soul within the personality, we are the act, we are the actor, we are the action. And that we that I speak of is the soul, the soul. And so this is a time of great need. It's a paradigm shift. And the amazing thing about it is that we can change it. I had a little back and forth with Cash Peters, pleasant, that, like I commented on his video, and he asked me a question and I answered. And he's like, when do you think this will be over? And of course I'm very optimistic. I'm like, well, I think it'll be over before we think it'll be over. I said, but if we really wanted it to be over, it could just be over like this. We had the consciousness that we don't need to do that. And so things can happen in a moment. A miracle can happen in a moment, just like a disaster can happen in a moment. So we have more power than we know, but it's not power over. It's the power of the soul working through the personality to manifest what it is, bringing heaven to earth, right? That's what the tree of life speaks of. When you look at the tree of life and you're up here in Kether, this is 1. Malkuth is 10. It's the one with the 0, the God force, right? It's really the one. It's really the one within the circle. It's the circle of spirit with the point of self-awareness. Okay, this is we're here to love. That is what we are here to do as human beings. We are the interface between the physical world and the spiritual world. And that interface is the personality and the soul. And so if we can connect with that part of ourselves, then we can create the miracles necessary to bring about life on earth. What do you want to see? Do you want to see life? Do you want to see peace? Do you want to see opportunity for your children to learn things that you never were able to learn, or go places and see things? What is it that you want to manifest? Take the time you need this year. Spend time in nature. When things get too noisy, it's okay to go and put up your boundaries and look within. I want you to have a wonderful, wonderful year. Like and subscribe. As I said, this is a wonderful year to get a reading. So if you want to do that, there's a link below. You can go to my website. As I said, if you haven't had one before, I think the 90-minute reading is great. If you've had one before and you want an update, the 60-minute reading is wonderful. And they're all priced, well, I try to keep it reasonable so people can do what they need to do for themselves. All right, guys, have yourself a wonderful year, and I'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Namaste.